I'd like to begin by welcoming our new Vestry members. Doug Daniels, if you would stand, Doug, and remain standing. Scott Rose, Joanne Reeves, and Spencer Hill. Let's give them a big welcome. As you all know, we had robust participation in the election. It was fantastic. And we appreciate all of those that were not elected for participation in the process. It was well run, and the electronic voting served us well again this year. We think we'll be headed back toward in-person voting, but who knows? It's been my distinct honor to serve with our vestry and the clergy this year, joining the distinguished General Darrell Jones as the second, and I hope the last, COVID senior warden. I'd like to thank the clergy and the staff for their wonderful and creative service on behalf of Christ Church in what has been a period of evolving worship methodology. In addition, I would like to thank the members of the vestry who are completing their terms of service, and that would be Lisa Blankfus, so if you all would stand, Andy Kerr, Tobin Hayes, and Megan Desbro. Thanks to all of you. Please get some rest. We'll be calling upon you again soon. For those of you that are a fan of Warren Buffett, you'd be familiar with his often recommendation to surround yourself with people that challenge you and make you better. And this begins, he often says, with the most important decision you make, which is who you spend the rest of your life with. As they say in Texas football, I outkicked my coverage on that one. And I'd like to thank my beautiful bride, Kim, for her support of my activities this year with Christ Church. She's finishing her COVID jail term right now, so she can't be with us. Now for a moment's reflection, if you'll indulge me. Each year between mid-December and New Year's, I complete an annual letter to my son. A nod to Warren Buffett's annual letter, of course. It's typically 4 or 5 pages, single space, so I'm not sure it gets read. And it covers several topics, including some general remarks on the world, our country, the economy, what I'm observing in his life, and some thoughts on my life. I suppose in some way it helps me put the year up for review and puts some perspective on the concluding year. In recent years, I've devoted some lines to the divisive and fractured state of our country. You know, whether it's in politics, gender, religion, race, or lifestyle, it seems our society, and particularly politicians, are set on othering us to death. I was introduced to this term othering by Justin through some materials he shared with me written by Tim Keller. It simply means anytime we divide ourselves on any basis, we are guilty of othering and therefore out of alignment with Christ's teachings. Othering has eroded trust in our systems, our institutions, our government, our organizations, and worst of all, in each other. And I am hopeful. I'm hopeful because we're here today. We, this church, Christ Church, and you are standing here as the antidote to the divide. We as Christians and as members of this parish are the way forward. The way forward is unity. Unity to trust those with whom we may not agree. But offer that trust in the knowledge that God has brought us to that moment. We must remain healthy Christians. And with God's help, we must bring the antidote to our places of business, our schools, our soccer fields, our social circles, our chance conversations, our Zoom meetings, and even our conflicts. We, as Justin early said, must be the trucks and the boats that are headed into the storm. Now, if you've been paying attention, including this morning, to our clergy sermons, you'll know that they regularly talk about taking action as Christians, turning our faith in Christianity into a verb, setting a compass heading and moving forward. And it is through their inspiration and our commitment to act that we convened this vestry. So let me recap the year, and it was quite a year. Our prayer was to emerge from the pandemic, not yet, and re-engage in full contact fellowship, not quite. Patience, grasshopper. We continued to adapt and meet the needs of as many members as possible, all the while balancing what we could do within the constraints of the bishop's rules about our building and health safety parameters. I would assess our clergy and staff's performance in coping with the pandemic as exemplary, and the words that come to my mind that best describe them are athleticism and agility. So we went to work, and as is my habit in business, we began by establishing some annual initiatives and how we would measure our success. An important need was to have better data about our parish's activities, which would allow us to be more discerning of the results of our work. The team, thankfully and graciously, provided a dashboard which we, the vestry, and the staff and the clergy reviewed on a monthly basis. This was a new practice, and it's providing important insights for our leadership and particularly as we develop more history with which to compare future results. So we've settled on 3 initiatives. Let me give them to you real quick, and then we'll come back to each one. Number 1, to improve our technology and communication strategy and execution. Margaret Pape was the champion. Number 2, revisit and update our children's education curriculum. That was championed by Megan Desbrow, with lots of help from Lisa Miller, Margaret Pape, Tobin Hayes, and Catherine DeMarinick. And number 3, grow discipleship through small groups and curriculum enhancement. That was championed by Gary Snelser. Thank you, Gary. All right, back to technology and communications. We learned that reaching our members, both current and future, required we adapt many aspects of our communication strategy. Streaming, social media, electronic communications, and much more were all part of this team's activities. From our first pandemic service, using an iPhone on Facebook Live, to what we now see as a highly curated media experience in online worship. We've come a long way, baby. Great work, Josh, and all the media team. We upped our game in terms of video and eye-catching graphics. We sought out a consultant's insight, and we're blessed to have Jennifer Holloway contribute to the wonderful work Gretchen Duggan has been doing for some years. Okay, some data. We had over 35,000 visits to the website this year. We sent 216,000 emails out, 100,000 of which were opened and read. And, importantly, only 12 people, maybe it's a biblical kind of number, 12 people, hit the dreaded unsubscribe button. That's a great track record. Our Facebook followers grew to over 1,200, and our Instagram audience increased by over 25%. Our streaming skills continue to improve, and our geographic reach has accelerated to many states and even several other countries. Thank you, Margaret, for communicating that. We are the antidote with God's help. Second, we revisited our children's education curriculum. This was an important initiative that was ultimately led by Patrick because it involved curriculum and involved extensive research into what similar parishes, over 10 of them actually, are doing. The work took the entire year, and I'm happy to announce Christ Church is renewing its commitment to children, parents, youth, and their families by implementing a new program this coming year. It's inspired by Holy Scripture, the Book of Common Prayer, and our newly purchased curriculum it's simply called Orange. We were spurred to look at Orange when we learned both St. Martin's and St. John the Divine in Houston were employing it with outstanding results. Because Orange emphasizes a connection with parents, we're hoping to stimulate faith discussions in the home, in the carpool, on the sports fields, and around the dinner table. To accomplish this goal, the Orange platform offers a parent portal, so it's technology-enabled, consistent with the first theme. And we'll be offering an adult Sunday school for parents where we'll cover the same material that the children are being exposed to. And as a newly minted grandparent, I hope grandparents are welcome as well. Additionally, we'll weave elements of the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, revered by many in the parish, as well as Helita. And furthermore, we'll add distinctive Episcopal lessons to the curriculum, such as the Eucharist, the Apostles' Creed, the Lord's Prayer, and the seasons of the church. Patrick's going to have a lot more to say about this in the coming weeks and months, but I have the pleasure of announcing a calling of Catherine DeMarnier to be the project coordinator for the implementation of this new curriculum. Catherine's going to work closely with Helita in support of her continued leadership. And Catherine, I'd like to thank you for showing us that we are the antidote with God's help. All right, number 3. Hang in there with me here. Number 3, grow discipleship through small groups. The main activity during 2021 was called Come and See. It was a series of 5 Sunday presentations involving a clergy and a layperson in April and May, covering each of the areas of ministry at the church: missions, outreach, worship, and pastoral care. On the 5th Sunday, which happened to be Pentecost, the rector spoke about formation and how parishioners could get engaged. Importantly, this led to what Patrick announced this morning, our exciting undertaking for 2022 called Renewal Works. And I encourage each of you to, again, complete the survey on the website. And you better be ready. Lisa Miller is the honcho of this initiative, and she will take no prisoners. It will focus on a spiritual life inventory of the parish, and it will address 4 critical questions. Where have we been? Where are we now? Where do we feel we need to go? And how we will get there. I'm excited about the promise of this program, as is evidenced by the success of moving many other congregations to significant action. Thank you, Lisa and Gary, for leading us in understanding that we are the antidote with God's help. Now I'd like to review a few of our committee's activities and their accomplishments. With respect to endowments, led by Andy Kerr, our endowment strategy at Christ Church has been building momentum over the last few years and enjoying great success. A significant aim during Patrick's tenure has been to leave the parish well-equipped financially for future generations. We identified 3 areas beyond our general endowment and the Ellison Scholarship Fund for these efforts. First, as many of you know, we embarked upon an effort to address the ongoing and significant cost of this beautiful building and honoring this building and our campus through our Building and Grounds Endowment. We made significant progress on this endowment this year, recently eclipsing the $4 million mark as a result of continued and generous giving and excellent investment returns. Having reached our minimum distribution goal of $3 million, the endowment is now prepared to begin to support capital expenses related to our campus and this building. This is a great victory, and you all should celebrate our success along with those many donors. Recently, we initiated the Munich Music Ministry and Outreach Endowments. These are in their early innings, having $200,000 to $300,000 in each account and building momentum. Each received significant gifts this year, and as you'll hear more in the Treasurer's report, we were able to make a nice contribution from our surplus to these two endowments. We're excited and thankful for the support of our world-class outreach and music ministries. Thank you, Justin and Josh. Where did Josh go? There he is, Josh, for demonstrating that we are the antidote with God's help. Amen. Facilities, champions David MacArthur and Rick Foster. What else could God throw at us? Snowvid, pipes bursting in the FMC, lightning strikes that fried the electrical grid of Christ Church. You name it, we overcame this significant weather-related trauma to our infrastructure. Thankfully, we have a great insurance carrier, and we have Robert Hanley. Both were up to the task of repair and improvements to the FMC, which totaled over $400,000, of which only about $3,000 came out of the church's funds. The rest were satisfied from our insurance coverage. We continued our work and installed wayfinding signage, which I think you all agree looks great, and we made several other meaningful improvements around the campus this year. Some of you may also know that we've dealt with some security issues on campus this year. This is primarily related to overnight guests that we are not equipped to serve adequately. And we're thankful to have recently partnered with Morningside Ministries and the Chandler House in an after-hour security patrol at a very cost-effective rate. We look forward to the day that this will no longer be required. We will continue to be a beacon of light in our community, and as you know, we are the antidote with God's help. Amen. Missions, champion Lisa Blomqvist. The missions team had a busy year despite pandemic-induced travel and meetings restrictions. They held 3 strategy sessions to renew vision and to increase Christ Church engagement, encourage spiritual growth, and grow our impact with our mission partners. An important initiative was to create the infrastructure for an online marketplace. This involved naming the site, which was not that easy. There's a lot of sites already named, so getting a domain, creating a digital platform for full e-commerce functionality was also needed. The name of the marketplace is joppagoods.com. So, please make sure to support Joppa Goods this coming year. It's a great opportunity for us to extend our mission reach beyond San Antonio and our borders. With respect to specific mission geographies and relationships, we continued building our connectivity and trust in Navajo land, and we're looking forward to in-person engagement later this year. Kurdistan and the Keelers continue to be a blessing with their local sewing ministry moving from 6 ladies to over 30 in the last 2 years. Our ongoing support to Honduras, Uganda, and Kenya was continued, and we look forward to traveling to be with our friends in those geographies in the near future. Lastly, our support for our missionaries and their families, the Millers, the Olsons, Reverend Allison Barfoot, Reverend Gachichu in Kenya, Reverend and Mrs. Jerry Kramer in Kurdistan, needs were all met. Thank you, Lisa and Martha Curry, for exemplifying that we are the antidote with God's help. Amen. Outreach champion Garnet we brought. Where's Garnet? Is Garnet here? Garnet is down in the play. Oh, she's with Kim in the COVID jail. Okay. And Scott and 4,000 other people that we all know. All right. Sidewalk Saturday often steals the headline. This year's no exception, with 22,000 folks served with 1,900 minister days doing that serving. But this is only part of the outreach story, as Garnet would gladly tell you if she were here. Our efforts in school ministry, think about 328 turkeys, the angel tree, snack pack, etc., are all alive and well and poised to grow meaningfully in the upcoming year. And we anxiously await reconnecting in person with more students as we move through the pandemic. Community health was well served in outreach through blood drives and vaccinations. And other activities that were important to the outreach efforts include our support of migration ministry, Alpha Home, Magdalena House, and so forth. Now, our annual direct budget for outreach is eclipsing $100,000 this year, and that's exciting. But think about it in these terms. If you account for our contributions to outreach to the diocese, through our funding and missions, in-kind giving, think about kielbasa sausage in those breakfast tacos, and our operation of the Outreach Center. Together, these total over $1 million per year that our parish sends forth to those in need. Thank you, Garnet, for showing. We are the antidote with God's help. Consecration Sunday and finances. I must take a moment to celebrate the outstanding leadership provided by David and Jeannie MacArthur. What a great Consecration Sunday we had this year. Thank you both for your leadership, and I know you're going to be great mentors for the Reeves as we move into the next year. The speakers were learned and diverse, and they showed us that Christ Church is really the core pillar of our lives, regardless of the season we are in. So thank you. Our treasurer, Herb Hill, will have details in a few minutes of the recently approved 2022 budget. But please join me in thanking Herb for his steadfast stewardship of our parish's finances over, in this term, the last 12 years. In closing, let me express that it has been my honor to serve as senior warden this year and offer my appreciation to the staff and the clergy and my fellow vestry members, but most of all to each of you. Thank you, and I'll entertain any questions, and then we'll have Herb come up and do the financial report.